Hello everybody, and welcome back to our Duskmourn set review. I'm no longer saying Duskbourn. We are going to be doing all of the green cards today and giving them a rating 1 through 10 based on how we think that they will do in the average limited deck. We've got Yanks on the call again. How you doing, Yanks?
Good. Ready for color number 5.
Yeah. Are you really excited for green?
I've never been excited for green in my life.
Okay, well, you're a party pooper. I'm excited for green.
Green is all creatures. That stinks.
Yeah. Turn them sideways, baby. Let's go. We're going to start off with Altanak, which is during the early access streamer event, I might have tried to force this several times and failed miserably. I also did play it on the Decked Out show, which was really fun. So this card is cool. He's pretty big and scary. And I think he's playable vaguely in like a big mana deck, but I don't know how realistic the say its name is going to be.
To say its name? Oh, I don't know what that card does.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I should read it. 7 mana for a 9/9 with trample. And it says whenever this becomes the target of a spell or an ability, an opponent controls, you draw a card. We saw one of these in like Murders or something. It was pretty good. It wasn't this expensive. It was like a 6-drop, but you can also pay 2 and you can discard Altanak and you can return a target land from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. And then, just as a spoiler, it's a bit of a cookie card because there's a card called Say Its Name. You can exile 3 of them from your graveyard and you can bring Altanak back from your graveyard, from your hand, or from your library. You can search it out and put it onto the battlefield. Say Its Name is a 2-mana sorcery spell, which we'll get to, I'm sure, that says mill 3. Put a land or a creature from your graveyard into your hand. So it's like not a bad card on its own, fueling stuff. And so the goal would be to get 3 of those into your graveyard and then exile them, search for Altanak, put it onto the battlefield for free.
Feels like a lot of work for something that just dies to bone shards.
But the idea is that like you could do it multiple times, you know, like you can live the dream. I don't know.
I'm in favor of these like live the dream cards, but that seems like a disappointing result to the dream for all the work being put in.
But the bone shards is like killing their creature, plus you get to draw because they target your creature, and you got it for free.
Well, you've dirtled around for a while.
You've dirtled, but didn't cost you any cards because those cards, the Say Its Names, replace themselves.
True.
So like that you are up 3-0 on this exchange.
Presuming you're not dead from dirtling so much.
Listen, all right, it's going to take a while.
I don't actually think this card's bad. I'm fine just casting this thing for 7.
Yes, agreed. But I just want you to know, you're going to have to send some more crumble money because this thing, every time I summon this, it's a cookie. Every time I summon it with the ability, not the...
No, I just say, yeah, no. Every time you cast this for 7, that doesn't work.
No, it's just I have to exile 3 and then do the thing. What you want to play it, and then late game, exile 3, Say Its Names, and then just bring it back out of the graveyard for free. Oh, yeah. Mwah. Anyway, I think this is a fine card. It's okay for the top end. Some decks won't be able to support it if your deck is too aggressive or doesn't have enough ramp or mana dorks or whatever. So this was way too long to say that this is like a 6 on its own, but I will be playing it anyway.
I initially was going to say 6, maybe a little higher at 6/5. I do like the sort of alternate ability if you have some sort of self-mill to ramp yourself. It makes the fact that this is a legendary creature makes it a little less bad if you have 2 of them. Too.
Yeah.
Like you can at least do something with the other one.
The problem is that like you also have to have put lands in the graveyard, so it needs something else, which I think is a little bit worse than, or it's significantly worse than like forest cycling.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm a little off of it just because you might not be doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it is unlike forest cycling. It is ramp as opposed to just search.
Yeah, but you just might not have it. And so I'm not willing to give it a half-point bump for that. But we're still really close.
Already. Yeah.
Next up, we have a 3/4 for 4 mana, the Anthropede. It's a insect with reach, and when it enters, you may pay 2 additional mana just to straight up destroy a room, or you could discard a card, which I did pay 2 mana several times to destroy rooms, mostly in draft, mostly in sealed, because it was like a slow enough format. most of the time in drafts, I was seeing less rooms and not having the mana, or the games were kind of over one in one direction or the other. Either I was already winning or they were already winning too much. But I still think this is a solid card. I think it's a 5.
It's a fine body. Green struggles with flyers, so grabbing a reach creature is nice. And then just having this flexibility means you're happy enough to put this in your deck.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, next up, we've got a rare 5 mana for a 5/5. It can't be countered. It has Trample and Haste, and it has Delirium. You can pay 4, return it from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Activate only if there are 4 more cards, yada, 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 Delirium. 5 mana, 5/5 with Trample and Haste that can come back and be a pain in the ass. That seems good.
Yeah. Really is a really high grade. I mean, I don't really particularly care about can't be countered and limited, but everything else on this card is great.
It gets you once in a while. 7.5.
I think just the fact that it can keep coming back, or I guess come back once.
Finality counter.
Yeah, makes me want to give it an 8.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly stompy enough to do so. Bashful Beastie, 5 mana, 5/4, that says when it dies, you manifest dread. Another card that I ran multiples of in my sealed, and it felt really good. I was able to manifest dread this into play, and then I was able to flip it and eat their creature when they blocked, and then eventually they use a removal spell on it, and it manifest dreaded it itself, and it felt good. I think it's too slow for drafts, but I still think it's a very playable card, so I'm going to say 5.5.
Yep, that's exactly what I was thinking. It's, again, 5-drop slot can get clogged, but this is fine to put there.
Yep, absolutely. Especially with Manifest Dread in the format, there's a good chance it just comes in upside down anyway. Next up, we have Break Down the Door, 3 mana for choose 1, exile an artifact, an enchantment, or you can manifest dread, and it's important to note that it's at instant speed that you can manifest dread. So I was able to get surprise creatures, block, eat their stuff. It was pretty nifty.
I think every one of these effects, this is probably 1 more mana than I want to pay, and that's fine if I'm getting all 3 of them as options on the same card.
It also fuels your Delirium, and it's just it was really well positioned, and it always did what I needed it to do at every point in the game. So I probably don't cut the first one of these. I'm going to say it's a solid 6.
6 is where I have it as well.
Are those headphones? These? This? Yes, this is a headphone. That's how I hear people without it echoing into the microphone. Cathartic Parting. Aw, they're saying goodbye to the biker mouse. The Kamigawa mouse. 2 mana for a sorcery. The owner of target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls shuffles it into their library. You may shuffle up to 4 target cards from your graveyard into your library. I think you're likely to hit something. There's a lot of artifact and a crap ton of enchantment creatures, and you get to put your best cards back into your deck, which is always nice late game. It's a 23rd playable card and a great sideboard.
Yeah, I do like the fact that, in green you are going to see a decent amount of self-mill, so like you said, recycling some of your better cards you might have accidentally put there is nice. Also, there's some benefit to not destroying the artifact or enchantment because it's not fueling their Delirium.
Or letting them recur it, because that's a whole dang archetype.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this card's pretty good. I think I'm always going to play the first one of these, actually.
Yeah, I think it's a 5 for me. I don't know that I'm always playing it, because it just feels like one of those cards where it's I would like to include this if I can, but it just feels like such an easy cut. Does that make sense?
It does. I don't know. I think I'm a little higher on it. I think I've got it as I almost want to say 6, but probably 5.5.
Close. Cautious Survivor, 4 mana for a 4/4, and then it says if it is your second main and it's tapped, you can gain 2 life, which isn't the most important ability, but it is a nice bonus, and it's a 4/4 for 4 that's pretty easy to cast. So I like this card.
Yeah, the survival ability is whatever, but just a bonus.
It's just solid filler. I think it's a good spot for a 4-drop to be. So I'm going to say that this is still just a 5.
Yeah, it's agreed. Again, it just speaks to power creep, right? Like 4 mana, 4/4 with an upside is, eh.
Yeah. Next up, Coordinated Clobbering. 1 mana for tap 1 or 2 target untapped creatures you control. They each deal damage equal to their power to target creature an opponent controls. So the nice thing is it's hard to get blown out. If you have 2 creatures that can both individually bite something, you can't get blown out. If you choose to do it into open mana, you can make sure that they get it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or you can pile 2 small things together and try to go up, which is nice. So you have some flexibility. It helps prevent you from getting got a little bit. Maybe they blow you out if you do 2 small things for a big thing, but then it's still kind of 1 for 1, right? Like they used premium instant speed removal on your small thing and you used your removal. So it's not amazing, but I do think it's pretty good. I will say I accidentally I targeted my mana dork that was big enough to fight something, and it auto-tapped the mana dork. So this went onto the stack with the creature tapped, so it didn't do the damage.
That's weird.
So be careful on Arena, because auto-tapper was funky on me, so it took me a minute to figure out why I didn't deal any damage. I was like, it's tapped. We tapped it. What happened? I think this card is good. It's pretty premium for green, so I'm going to say 7.5.
Yeah, I think in a lot of other formats, you'd be pretty unhappy about in green having to tap 2 creatures, presumably at least something decent sized to kill something, because then you'll get to attack with them. But here you're also getting the benefit of triggering some survival, your survivor stuff.
Yep.
Which would be nice. So yeah, I like it at 7.5.
And summoning sickness doesn't matter either. I just, cast it on whatever, because it's only 1 mana. That mana cost is perfect. So good. All right, next up, Cryptid Inspector. 3 mana for a 2/3 with Vigilance. And whenever a face-down permanent you control enters, and whenever this or another permanent you control is turned face up. Okay, put a +1/+1, counter onto this Inspector. So whenever a face-down creature is put onto the board or turned face up, you get the counter. That's pretty nice. So that you can play this as a curve, and it's really good in the Manifest Dread decks because it itself helps when you're flipping, and it still continues to get better and better with all of your other flipping. This seems great for any deck.
I like that this has, Megamorph without calling it that. When it turns up, it gets a counter.
I will say that there was a lot of Manifest Dreads, even in my not Manifest Dread decks. So you're going to get some incidental triggers on this no matter what you're doing. So I like this at a 6.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little lower. I think I've got it as a 5 just because it's a payoff, but it's a pretty lame payoff.
Fair,
it's pretty
fair.
Slow.
It also has a keyword, which I like too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what was your score? 5?
5.
Okay, a whole point. All right. Defiant Survivor, 3 mana for a 3/2 with Survival. If it was tapped at the beginning of your second main, you get to Manifest Dread. Now that is a great card.
Yeah, this is one of the cards you definitely want to just find a way to tap this without having to risk it in combat.
Yes. And there are lots of ways you can do that, or some extra combat tricks. But there are certainly a couple of things that will help you get around to doing that. And I think that this is fantastic. Very, very powerful. I think this is a 7.
7, yep.
Enduring Vitality. This is the weakest of the Vitalities. I had it in a deck and it was pretty mopey. 3 mana for a 3/3 with Vigilance. And creatures you control can tap for mana and it can come back after it's dead and turn into an enchantment only. So it just turns your stuff into mana, which is cool. It was useful, but it wasn't killing anybody like the other colors.
It's definitely the weakest of them. I think this is going to be a lot better than it looks, if only because it lets every one of your survival creatures become freely tapped.
Yeah, I didn't have many of those. So, it's possible. And I'm not saying it's bad, but, I went from, oh, red one, okay, I scoop. To me playing this being do something. Freaking do something. I was like, no, okay, I think I got, a mana off of it. So it's still very playable. We're never cutting this. It's a 3/3 vigilance for 3 in, couple extra mana in, but it's still like a 7.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's where I have it too. Just it. You're right. It does feel bad compared to everything else we've seen.
They're so busted. Draw a card every time you hit them with something. Get +2/+0 and haste to everything. Like, just incredibly bad. Like, this should be like get a life and like tap for mana and gain a life at the very least, and it would still be the worst one.
Yeah.
Stupid. Anyway, 7. Fear of Exposure. As an additional cost to cast this spell, tap 2 untapped creatures and or lands you control and then trample. I like this a lot because it makes your survivor stuff really good. Normally tapping 2 creatures is like a huge downside, but later in the game, turn 4, turn 5, when those weaker creatures can't get in anymore, but you still want to trigger their survival, this is how you do it. It's pretty great. Or you can just cast a 5/4 with trample for 5 mana, which is still not awful. So I think this is very, very playable.
Agreed. It's nice to be able to have like a 5-drop that theoretically, if you're stuck on 3, you might still be able to cast.
And it might be beneficial to you. Like, okay, then I will get to second main Manifest Dread with my 3/2 that has no shot of getting in on turn 4 or 5. Yeah.
Agreed.
That's game ending. So you still have to have some reason to do it if you don't have any survivor or you don't have like token generation. It's just like a 5. But if you do, it will play up, I think, pretty well. Like 6, 6.5.
Agreed. I think it's also just good to note, like, we've seen a ton of enchantment creatures in this format, but I'm looking through it, and green only has 4, and one's a mythic and one's a rare. So if you're looking for enchantment triggers on creatures, you're not going to find them as often. So that might be a little bonus for this card.
Nice. Flesh Burrower. Ooh. 2 mana for a 2/2 with Death Touch, and when it attacks another target creature you control, gains Death Touch till end of turn. So send your 2/2s into their giant beastie. Seems fine. 2/2 for 2 with Death Touch. I like it. It's a 5.5.
I'll say 6, just because I like cheap Death Touchers, and I like the fact that it helps your at least once get potentially get a survivor creature in, or at least make it really bad for them to block it.
Yeah. I used to, like, I think I was at 6 with you before. I used to be a big fan. But because 2/2 Death Touchers for 2 have been a thing for so long, they don't feel like they've crept up with the rest of the set. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah,
like,
I guess to some
when
degree
you compare it to, like, Windrake.
Sure, I guess to some degree, Death Touch is a bit of an equalizer that they don't need to power creep up, because they can kill a 2/2, we can kill a 6/6 equally.
Yeah, but I would think it would power creep with like a bigger booty or also vigilance or like, don't get me wrong, I don't like cards getting more powerful. It just doesn't feel like this particular card has continued to go up as other cards like Windrake has.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I'm more hesitant. Although there are a couple of bite spells in this, so that's always a nice bonus. We're only a half point off.
What was the right card that would let this punch everything to death?
Spinning Will Kick?
No, it was the very last Waltz of Rage.
Oh, I just heard you say a random card, so I was just like, oh, that's not a sip.
Red card.
Oh, I see. All right, next up, Frantic Strength. We've got, I just had like a fear that I haven't been recording my audio this whole time, but we're doing all right. Frantic Strength, 3 mana for a flash enchantment. It gets +2/+2 and trample. Played it in my sealed pool. It was fine. It ate a creature. Felt pretty good, but I think it is a little tricky and sealed. I always play these with the flash because it doubles as a removal spell. Like, I only play them in spots where I'm happy to play a removal spell or like a combat trick, but I still think it's like a 5.
I think so too, and it loses points because I'm going to call it Frantic Search about 100 times.
Yeah.
3 mana, instant speed. I'm going to think it's Frantic, even though it's the wrong color.
Yeah, I think this will... I'm going to say it's probably a 4. It's going to make the cut sometimes, but I think not too often.
Sure. Yeah, it's nice with the survival stuff. Help things.
Yeah, it really does help get things in too, which is nice. There'll be certainly some decks where we're very happy to play it. Grasping Longneck. God, everything in this set is so creepy. 3 mana for a 4/2 reach. When it dies, you gain 2 life, and it's an enchantment. It's fine. 4/2s. This is a card that we've always seen, except for it doesn't usually gain 2 life.
No, it's supposed to be a 2/4. Like the spiders. Greens. I mean, I know they did make the one that was a 4/2. But
They started changing it to it was a 4/2 because like the thing I always say is that the spiders are confused that their butt is where their face should be.
Yes.
It's got a really long neck. You would think that would be the 2. Whatever. I think it's fine. It's filler. It's gonna be.
That's like a 5.
Yeah, I was even gonna go even lower. Honestly, we've been pretty like doing a lot of 5s lately, which means some things just have to get pushed down. Which I'm just gonna give it a 4.5.
Maybe, I don't know. I feel like 5 is the number that it's okay to have a bunch of things. Like they're replaceable, and they all are with each other.
That's true. It's just if I line up a big pool of the 5s, I feel like this is on the low end, right? Like this is worse than those. Yeah. So I don't know. This feels worse than a lot of our 5s. All right, next up.
Greenhouse and Rickety Gazebo are first green room. Greenhouse, 2 and a green. Lands you control have tap and 1 mana of any color. Rickety Gazebo, 4 mana. When you unlock this door, mill 4 cards, then return up to 2 permanent cards from among them to your hand.
I played this in my sealed. It was pretty cool. I played it with the black enchantment that allowed me to make zombies every single time you remove something from your graveyard. So I was able to like stack those really nicely. The extra mana came in handy early. Fixed my mana as well when I needed it. Let me keep really greedy hands that was like, green, 2-drop, and then this, and then no other land. Or it's like, okay, well, like you just green 2-drop into this, and then you're like, everything's great. Doesn't matter what color lands you hit. And if you hit no lands, then it doesn't matter if you had green and black or not.
Yeah, I kind of hate this card.
I don't think it's good. I think it's very, very playable and sealed. And I think too slow in draft.
I don't even know if it's too slow to me it is, but unless you're really aiming at Delirium, I just think it's too bad for draft. Like, I don't want to spend 3 mana just to fix all my colors, like, waste a turn doing that. Now, if this is like more of a 3 or 4 color format, then sure, but...
Yeah, I mean, just getting 2 permanents back was pretty nifty. I mean, it's only out of the 4 cards, not out of your whole
4.
thing.
Yeah.
But it still came in very, very handy. I definitely won some games with it. And then there's a ton of things that, like I said, care about removing things from your graveyard. I was reasonably happy with it. But again, I still think it's too slow for drafts. So I'm just going to say it's a 4. It's going to get cut most of the time.
Yeah, I was going to say a 3, but either way, you're not going to play it much.
No. I think it probably plays in most of my sealed pools. Just because you don't have enough green cards or whatever. Sure. Next up, Haunt Woods Stalker. 3 mana for a 3/3. When it attacks, you manifest Dread. And for 2, you can reveal a face down permanent. If it's a creature, you may turn it face up. So it doesn't say that you control, so you can reveal their card and not turn it face up. You can flip all your stuff for 2 mana, which is busted. And every single time you get into this, whether you get Manifest Dread, I curved out with this and won every single game. This card played like an absolute all-star.
I'm just kind of chuckling myself. I know it's a technical term in Magic to turn it face up, but how else would you reveal a face down permanent other than by turning it face up?
Yeah, I think the idea is that when you reveal it, you pick it up and show it, and then it's not technically, but it's funny speech.
We saw a few cards ago, right? The uncommon, the 3/2 that Manifest Dread with survival if it was tapped. This is a bigger body for the same mana cost. I mean, a little harder with double green. An extra ability. It does have to attack, but it doesn't even have to survive combat to get that first one. So this is, we gave that a 7. This is at least, an 8.5 or 9.
9 for me. Hedge Shredder, 4 mana for a 5/5. When it attacks, you may mill 2. Love the word may. Whenever one or more lands are put into a graveyard from your library, put them onto the battlefield tapped. Crew only 1. Excellent. Fantastic. Artifacts are going to be a little bit harder to remove than enchantments, I think. Not by a ton, but I do think that this is quite good.
Yeah, the May is key, like you said. Yeah, free ramp and the ability to freely get your survival stuff going. It's pretty good.
Yeah. And the nice thing is that it by itself doesn't have to attack and do the thing. Like if you don't crew, you could Manifest Dread and put a land into the graveyard with your Manifest Dread and just get this, right? The turn it comes out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I think this is really, really good. I'm going to call this like an 8.
I also have it as an 8.
All right. Horrid Vigor, 2 mana for an instant. Target creature gains Death Touch and Indestructible till end of turn. Indestructible and Death Touch is pretty good.
Yeah, this card is fine. I mean, it's a decent combat trick. It'll win a combat. It'll protect your things from, most non-exile removal, basically.
Yeah. Eats their big things, and then protects your big things from most removal spells, which always feels very good. So I think it's a replaceable card. I'm just going to give it a 5, but I do think it's very playable.
Agreed. 5.
All right. House Cartographer. 2 mana for a 2/2 with survival. And if it was tapped, you may reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a land card. Put that card into your hand and the rest into the bottom in a random order. This was a really nice card to curve out into. Lots of ways to tap it without needing to get it into combat. I think this was a very, very good 2-drop 6.
Agreed, although unlike what we just saw a couple cards ago, it is not a May. You must do this.
Yeah.
It's not mill, so there's no real reason you wouldn't ever do it, but...
But you put them back at the bottom of a random order.
Yeah.
They don't go into the thing. Yeah. So that's fine.
I'm just laughing because you said you may, and you'd been so happy about May on the other card.
Well, yeah, because it mills you. If it's going onto into the bottom of the library, the threat is not the same. The threat to your...
You get down to the end of the game and you've got like 4 cards left in your deck. You don't want to pull one out.
I mean, if I'm attacking with a 2/2, I think I'm probably... I don't know if that's going to be the deciding factor.
I can't crew anything with this.
Can you fail to find?
No, because you're revealing them. Revealing every card.
Yeah, but it just says put that into your hand. It doesn't say you may put that into your hand. But
yeah.
All right. Insidious Fungus. 1 mana for a 1/2. Pay 2. Sacrifice it. Choose 1. Destroy an artifact. Destroy an enchantment. Or draw a card. Then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. This card was very, very good. I was a big fan. I killed rooms. I chump blocked, drew, ramped, killed enchantments. No downside here. This is a 6.
Agreed. You got three useful modes.
This is an insanely impactful
1
1-drop, which is just not something you see super often.
Yep, 6.
All right, moving on. Kona Rescue Beastie. We have a 4 mana 4/3 with survival. If it was tapped at the second main phase, you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. Okay. That's pretty good. Ooh. Altanak? Do I get a cookie if I put Altanak onto the battlefield with this?
Say that's not really that hard to do.
I mean, it's a rare and it's an uncommon, and Altanak has to be in your hand. I feel like cheating Altanak onto the battlefield counts.
No, because then you just draft all the black-white reanimator stuff. There's a whole archetype trying to do that.
No. I won't count reanimator stuff.
Okay.
Except for the say its name.
Yeah.
That's lame. Like just the 5 mana uncommon, put it onto the battlefield. No. That's not the same thing as like a cookie card. But cheating something onto the battlefield is pretty slick. I think this is a fine card. He's got a tiny butt, so it's a little weak, but it certainly can win games, especially if you have a combat trick, right? You blow them out with a combat trick, eat their thing, and then put a 6-drop onto the battlefield. Kind of game over. Plus, you get to play a 5-drop or whatever.
Yeah, the part where this actually becomes threatening is if you. The weird thing is you need like 2 big threats in your hand. Because one to cheat in and then one to take advantage of the fact that you didn't have to spend the mana on it.
Yeah. I mean, it's on turn 5. It could just be, you played the combat trick, and it could just be like 2 4-drops or whatever. So it doesn't have to be anything too outrageous for it to be very good value. A draw spell, like put a big, put your 5-drop onto the battlefield, and then you get mana for counter magic or draw spells on the back end. Still good tempo and pace. So I want to give it an 8.
Yeah, I think it's too fragile for me to give it an 8. I'm just going to say it's a 7.
Yeah. It feels... So we gave the 3/2 with survival that, like, Manifest Dread's a 7, and it feels better than that.
Yeah.
But not by a ton. So that's why I hedged up to an 8, but...
That's... Yeah. That can... The weird thing is, right, that card can never whiff. This can. Right, if you're Hellbent or something.
Yeah, but it could just make a 2/2. Like, the upside is way higher. I agree, you could whiff if you've got nothing in hand, but...
Oh, the upside is definitely higher, but it's not just, like, straight better.
We're still pretty close, though. You're at a 7 and I'm at an 8?
Yep.
All right, Leyline of Mutation.
0.
4 mana for Wooburg, something, 0. Manifest Dread for 2. Pay 2 mana, sorcery speed, Manifest Dread. I thought this card was fine. It was a solid 2-drop. It also helps fuel your Delirium, right? You get the creature that you wanted, plus you get 2 cards into the bin for Delirium, and I felt that was also very, very helpful. So I think this is 6. Maybe a 5.5.
This card just makes me laugh. I love that they just named a card for the mechanic.
Yeah.
It's like,
that makes
why
sense.
Make it any more complicated? This is what it is. Yeah, 5.5 seems good.
All right, next up.
Moldering Gym and Weight Room. Moldering Gym is 3 mana. When you knock this door, search your library for a basic land, put it onto the battlefield, tapped, and shuffle. Weight Room for 6 mana. When you unlock this door, Manifest Dread, then put 3+1/+1 counters on that creature.
I did play this once, and it was okay. 6 mana for, Graveyard Fodder. It's a 5/5 that can get bigger, and the ramp is, like, kind of on par. It's also enchantment triggers if you need them, so... It feels replaceable, but it feels fine. So I'm going to say it's a 5.
In a deck that really wants to go big, I guess I'm okay with paying 3 mana for ramp. I mean, I'd rather pay 2, but it's fine. And then, and it helps build you towards the second half, which is nice, but it is kind of replaceable. So 5 seems right.
Next up, Monstrous Emergence. We have a 2 mana. As an additional cost to cast this, you can reveal a creature from your hand, and it will deal damage based on that creature's power to any creature, but you can also pick one that you have on the board. So it's nice that you don't have to have the creature. It protects it a little bit better. Choose a creature you control or reveal one from your hand. So it's nice backup. Sorcery speed, but only 2 mana. I thought this played pretty well. There was times where I was behind, so I was able to use a larger creature in my hand that I didn't have the mana for to kill their thing. So, and if they have open mana, you might just choose to do that so you can't get 2 for 1.
Well, I would say the nice thing about the way this card is worded is that even if you pick the creature on the battlefield, it'll still deal that damage, even if they kill it.
Oh, that's
because
true.
It's not a target, it will rely on its last known information. Now, the only way that's not really true is if they manage to give it like a -X effect.
The other reason that this happens is the emergence is what's dealing the damage, not the creature, which is the important part, which I didn't even make that connection in my head. So it doesn't really matter. But either way, it is good that you have the second option. It's just an upside. So you still have to have a creature. So I'm going to say 7.5.
I like it at 7.5. I do want to blow somebody out who thinks they're safe on this card by giving something like -2/-2 that they chose.
Yeah,
because that will count.
Omnivorous Flytrap, 3 mana for a 2/4 with Delirium. When it enters or attacks, something Delirium. Distribute 2+1/+1 counters among 2 target creatures. Then if there are 6 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, double those number of +1/+1 counters on those creatures. Huh. The 6
Super
card types will
boring.
be hard.
Yeah, you've got to hit everything short of Planeswalker.
Yeah, there's what? So it's creature, enchantment, room specifically counts, artifact, creature, yeah,
Room
land.
is not a separate type.
It's not?
No,
Rooms
it's
aren't
a
like
subtype.
battles?
Nope, it's a subtype.
What the fuck? Battles count? Why wouldn't rooms count?
Because battles aren't enchantments. Like you can't count. It doesn't count as both an enchantment and a room. It's a sub. It's just like legendary. It's just a super type. It doesn't count separately.
Just kicking Goyf in the goddamn shins every chance they get. They couldn't have thrown Goyf a bone. I assumed it was I thought it was a type.
Yeah, you have to hit creature, enchantment, artifact, instant, sorcery, land, assuming you don't have the one planeswalker in the set.
Whatever, it's still good. Ignore the second paragraph. It's still good. Delirious, get 2+1/+1 counters on ETB for a good curve. And it's a freaking carnivorous plant, which is one of my favorite things in all the world. In college, we had to pick like a thing to do like a big report on, and I picked carnivorous plants. Everybody else was like wolves and gray white sharks. I was like carnivorous plants. I was very into it, and my thing had the little Mario plant on it.
Oh, I can't think of the name of it.
Yeah, the piranha plant.
Oh yeah, this is a piranha plant.
Rating wise, let's keep going because we're slowing down because we're tired.
Yeah. I think this is like an 8. You got to deal with it.
Agreed. Seconded. Overgrown Zealot. We got 2 mana for an 0/4. You can add 1 mana of any color. You can tap, add 2 mana of any color, but spend it only to turn things face up. Fixing. Anti-aggro. It's fine. Some decks might not want this, like a low to the groundy, more aggressive curve, but I feel like you're going to be turning stuff up pretty often. I'm going to say this is a 6.
Yeah, green doesn't seem that aggressive. I mean, even like green-white's usually your aggressive one, and that being a survival theme, it's clearly a value-based theme because it's trying to do stuff like after, it's trying to generate effects after combat.
Mm-hmm.
So other than like maybe your like Gruul Stompy deck, I think everyone will be happy enough with just this mana dork. I like this as like a 6.5.
Okay,
Just
pretty
I haven't
close.
seen any other mana dorks.
Overlord of the Hauntwoods, 5 mana for a 6/5 with impending 4 for 3. When it enters, create a tapped colorless land token named Everywhere that is every basic land type. So you get to ramp up on turn 3. Doesn't come into play tapped. And every single time it attacks, you get to do another land. And it's pretty cheap. This is probably the second worst of the Overlords.
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
Still pretty cool. You
It
probably...
it might be the worst.
I don't remember them all, honestly.
I mean, white is stupid. It's
White is the 10.
Blue is the draw 2, discard 1 every time, and
Better.
it's a flyer. Black is mill some amount, mill 4 cards, return a creature.
Better.
Planeswalker to your hand. And then red is deal 4.
Better. This is the worst one. Good call. Good call. I think this is by far the worst one. Still a good card, but like, let's say it's a... Because you can play it for 3 and get that land, I'm pretty happy. So it's not bad, but it's not like ending the game.
Still probably an 8. Big threat. You can play it early for cheap and ramp you.
And fix you.
Yeah, it's still very good. It's just not, oh my god, I want to stop playing this game right now when it comes down like some of the other ones.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it feels a little underwhelming for my 8s, but it doesn't feel like my 7s either, so yeah, it's probably just an 8. All right, Patchwork Beastie. He's kind of cute. 1 mana for a 3/3 with Delirium. He can't attack or block unless there are Delirium. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may mill a card. I like that it helps enable your other Delirium stuff. It's an artifact as well, so it itself is a good Delirium target. It's fine, but you want to be in the Delirium decks. Feels kind of split rating-y.
Agreed. There seems to be a decent enough self-mill in green that we've seen that, and we know is coming. Like, and I think it's probably gonna. You're probably okay with this in every deck, but yeah, you're only happy in Delirium decks.
Agreed. Rating-wise, I think it's a 5, but you're just going to cut it in most decks.
Yep.
But it's a fine thing if you're looking to do the thing. Root-wise Survivor. 5 mana for a 3/4 with haste, and it has Survivor. At your second main, if it was tapped, you get to put 3 +1/+1 counters onto up to 1 target land you control, and it becomes a 0/0 elemental creature token with haste. Or just elemental creature token. Oh no, it does gain haste till the end of turn, which is irrelevant, kind of, because...
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out why it does that, and it's almost entirely because if you put those counters on a land you just played that turn, it would no longer be able to tap for mana if it didn't have haste.
That makes sense. Yeah, that
I was
would be
trying to
annoying.
figure out why it gave haste in second main phase.
That would indeed be stupid. So good job. I just assumed it was a formatting situation because that's usually what that says. So they're like, let's just keep this the same for continuity, whatever, something. But nope, you're right. There's a good reason. I played this card in my draft and it was very good. I definitely killed them with like 2 extra 3/3s. Needed a combat trick or so to get this in, but when I did, it definitely pulled away from a board stall. So I like this at a 7.
Another interesting thing with the templating of this card is a lot of times this effect you can only target non-creature lands.
Mm-hmm.
But you can keep stacking this onto the same land if you want.
Yeah.
Which is not always the case. So just the flexibility is nice. I think I'm a little lower on it than you. I've got it as a 6.
Say its name. Here comes Altanak. Beetlejuice. Mill 3 cards. Then you may return a creature or a land from your graveyard to your hand. Doesn't need to be the ones that are milled. It only costs 2 mana, and you can exile 3 Say its names from your graveyard to get Altanak from either your graveyard, hand, or library and put it onto the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery. Yeah. Cookie. Send me the cookies. I've already tried doing this twice and it failed, so we might not get so many cookies, but, it's hypothetically possible that we will get some cookies. I think it's a fine card on its own. It enables your Delirium, and it's good for your recursion decks, and I think it is a fine card that is a 4.5 on its own, but it will be cute, and I want to do it.
Great. I don't think you're going to play this that often, but it's not the worst 23rd card, and then, yeah, if you want to go for it, then go for it.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it is a cycle that fuels your Delirium. So that's basically what your goal is. Or if you've got some big bombs and you want to really dig deep for them, like if you have like 2 things that just end games, then yes, I'm very happy to run these. All right, next up we have a 6 mana 7/6 Trampler with Forest Cycling. These were all 6s because of the cycling.
Yeah, we haven't actually seen a ton of trample in this set.
So
that's interesting, and it's pretty large, but yeah, it's still a 6.
All right, next up we have Spine Seeker Centipede, 3 mana for a 2/1. When it enters, search your library for a land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Excellent. And with Delirium, it gets +1/+2 and has Vigilance when you have Delirium. This card was great. I really liked 3 mana find a card, and it's attached to a body. I hate 3 mana find a land that's like not a card, right? Like it's like
just a sorcerer, yeah.
Just 1 for 1. In late game, you don't want lands, so you just got more lands, and you're sad. So, I thought this card was great. 6.
Yeah, these cards used to be like Civic Wayfinder, stuff like that. It used to be really good. The body feels so underwhelming now, but I guess Delirium will come up often enough. That's okay.
I mean,
So, yeah, I guess
it's slightly
it's
bigger
fine.
than they were. They're usually like 1/1s, right? Or 1/2s.
Yeah, one ones a lot of times, but
So a
even
2/1 already trades better, and it's going to become a 3/3 pretty regularly in this format.
yeah, I think if it didn't become a 3/3, I'd be pretty disappointed with this card. But
Yeah, but I think you will be surprised with how much the Manifest Dreads and the Delirium like triggers really buffed this. I had 2 of them in play at one point, and they were just like always 3/3s.
Yeah.
Manifest Dread fuel, like putting a land into your graveyard with Manifest Dread makes Delirium so much easier than it is in other formats.
it makes sense.
Threats around every corner. 4 mana for an enchantment. When it enters, you Manifest Dread. And whenever a face-down permanent you control enters, you get to search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, and put it onto the battlefield tapped. So for 4 mana, you get the 2/2 Manifest Dread, and you get to automatically guarantee to get a land and ramp yourself and fix yourself. So I thought this card was fine.
On its face, it's what, 4 mana 2/2 that ramps you.
And manages your Delirium and all
Yeah.
of the good things. Yeah. It's a synergistic piece in addition to being on its face, like, fine for its mana cost.
Yeah, I think this card is fine. I'm like a 5.5.
Ooh, I'm so much higher on it. I was going to say 6.5.
Yeah, maybe we've been hit a run of them, but it feels like 4 is pretty crowded.
Maybe.
But I could be wrong.
Twitching Doll, 2 mana for a 2/2. You can add 1 mana of any color. Put a nesting counter onto the Twitching Doll. You can tap it, sacrifice it, and make a 2/2 green spider creature token with reach for each counter on the doll. And you don't have to use the mana, right? It doesn't say like anytime you cast a creature with the mana of this type or whatever. You just end of your turn. I didn't use this. Tap it, and then you just get to keep doing it. The problem is it's activated as a sorcery, so while you're like juicing it, they just like kill it, and you're like, oh. But yes, you can. It's insane.
Yeah, and then they've spent their removal spell on your mana dork.
That has already like ramped you into 2 other things, and yeah, agreed. It's still very good.
Also, kind of weirdly, like you get a 2/2 spider token for each with reach for each counter, not each nest counter. So if like you have random +1/+1 counters or something, you can just turn them into more spiders.
I did not see that. I did not see that at all. You were right. And there are some cards that like the plant that like put counters on things sporadically. Wow. That's stupid. I mean, it's probably not that busted because you're loading up counters onto it and then they sack it.
No, it probably doesn't come up that often, and it's not that huge. It's just interesting. It might come up. You might run into it once or something.
Huh. It's a viable strategy, though. I do like it. Rating-wise, it's a very, very strong mana dork, I think. It's also an artifact, which is really good for your Delirium stuff. Because that's like the harder piece to get, I think, in a lot of the decks.
Yeah, usually you would think it's enchantments, but there's so many enchantment creatures and runes and stuff.
And there's a fair number of artifact creatures, but they're mostly in red. So if you're in like Golgari, like that tends to be the harder thing for me to get.
I want to give this like a 7.5.
Agreed. I'm right there too. I wanted to give it an 8, but I just can't quite get there. Because it just gets blown up a good amount of time.
I want to say if it was an instant, you could do it as an instant, it would be an 8, but then it would probably be even higher than that because that would be...
Yeah, if it was an instant, I think I'm like 8.5, yeah.
Yeah.
A whole bump for sure.
Yeah.
Or if it came into play with a counter or something.
Yeah.
Or if it had like ward 1. It just needs a little something. 3 mana for a tap, another untapped creature you control. This gains indestructible until end of turn and tap it. It's good for combat. For 5 mana, creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So guaranteed 3. I definitely died to this. It's a little... I definitely died to this, because they just play it and don't tap their other creature, and then it's now basically indestructible forever. So that is really, really good. And I think because it has that sort of built-in indestructibleness, I'm going to say 9.5.
Okay, I was wondering where you're going because I was thinking at least a 9. Because this card is absurd. It's incredibly hard to kill, short of exile.
Yep.
It just it auto, gives you free taps on all your survivor stuff.
Yep.
The 5 mana ability, right, is a guaranteed +3/+3. And we've seen a bunch of stuff in green that's giving you random extra lands.
Yeah.
Like
You can activate it more than once. Crazy.
Yep. I think it's I like it at 9.5.
Under the Skin. This card was great. 3 mana for a Manifest Dread. Then you can return a permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. I'm never cutting this card. I'm playing I don't know. There's some number of these I wouldn't play, but it's higher than 4.
I mean, we used to be very happy with 4 mana 2/2 return a creature from your graveyard. Now it's permanent and you get potentially to put something in there.
Yep. It's fantastic. Now it's not ending games, but I'm going to say it's a 7.
7. Yeah, I'm with you.
Velgavoth's Onslaught, XX green, manifest dread X times. Put X +1/+1 counters on each of those. So what is this? You pay 7 and you're getting 3 manifest dreads and 3 counters on them. So you're getting 3
5/5s.
5/5s for 7. For
Yeah,
5, you're getting 2 4/4s.
Yes, 3/3, 2 4/4s, 3 5/5s, 4 6/6s.
Huh. It's pretty good. I like I think the 5 2 4/4s is pretty good. I am into this card. 8.
I think I'm kind of even higher on it. I think I want to give it a 9. It's just because you can play it at any point in the game. I mean, I guess you're not happy with it at 3 mana, but 5 mana 7, it scales great. You fill your graveyard. If you manifest dread 3 times, at least one of those is probably a creature you can flip up.
Yeah. The 8 was kind of the conservative route. I agree. I'm kind of assuming you're very rarely going to get to 7 to do it for 7. So I'm kind of assuming 5 is your baseline, but I agree. I think it can play incredibly high.
I think an hour ago I would have agreed with that, but it seems like every other card in green ramps you or gets you more land.
Yeah, but you didn't like most of those cards, so you're probably not running them.
No, but there's so many of them now. It's you're gonna almost have to, otherwise you're not gonna be able to play green.
Maybe I don't know that there was a bunch. The room you basically said was unplayable. The 2/1 you said you didn't like anymore. So it's just the enchantment.
Now that can become a 3/3. We've seen a couple mana dorks.
There was at rare.
One of them was an uncommon.
Okay.
The 4 mana enchantment. I don't know. It just seems like there's a lot more incidental random land effects than usual.
Yeah. It's hard for me to say to count them if you were saying they're bad and you're not going to play them.
On each on its own, I don't think I would have, but I'm gonna never be able to play green if I don't play them. It's like every card.
Fair. But if you think they're all bad, then wouldn't you not play green? I don't understand.
I don't play green anyway, so.
I do think this is very good, but I'm going to stick on an 8 because I just don't think it's going to be 7 to 9 mana often. I do like 2 4/4s for 5. That seems very, very strong. So it's got a nice upside, but we're not too far off. Next up.
Walk-in Closet and Forgotten Cellar. Walk-in Closet's 3 mana, 2 and a green. You can play lands from your graveyard. Forgotten Cellar, 5 mana, 3 green. When you unlock this door, you may cast spells from your graveyard this turn. And if a card would be put into your graveyard from anywhere this turn, exile it instead.
Huh. But you can play lands from your grave, or you can play spells from your graveyard this turn, but it costs 5 mana.
Yeah, that's the problem. How much mana do you have left?
I think there was a card that let you unlock a room. So you could cheat it out somehow, but I think that still costs some mana. And I don't remember what it was or what the relevance was. So I'm not going to count that at all. I don't like this card.
No, I mean, I guess if you have enough self-mill, then getting to replay your lands out of your yard is nice, but probably not worth a whole card.
No.
And yeah, you need what, like, for Forgotten Cellar to really be good, you need like 9-10 mana.
Yep.
Yeah, it feels like constructed build around.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's a 2.
Yep.
All right. Weary Watchdog, 2 mana, 3/1, that when it enters or dies, surveil 1. He played pretty well, and it's a dog, so I'm going to play it anyway. I'm going to say it's a 5.
So I'm going to play it anyway. I like it at 5-2.
Bark, bark. Wickerfolk Thrasher. 4 mana for a 5/4 with Delirium. When it attacks, if there are 4 or more something cards, you get to look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it onto the battlefield. If you don't, put it into your hand. So it's a 4 mana 5/4 that when it attacks Delirium, you get to ramp or draw. It's busted as hell. I think this card is fantastic.
Yeah, and it's nice that it's an attack trigger. It's not a survival trigger, so it doesn't have to survive combat, although this is pretty beefy anyway.
I mean, survival is nice because you can cheat it out. Like, if they have blockers or whatever, I would almost also like to be able to have survival. You don't need to do the combat, but...
Yeah, it's like you don't need to be in a deck that can enable that.
Yeah, you can just get the one trigger and be happy with it if you want to.
Yeah,
I think it's 7.5.
Yeah, I was going to say 7, so I think we're pretty close.
All right, that's the end of green. Yanks, what do you think?
It seems pretty strong.
Synergistic.
Yeah, there's a lot of survival stuff, a whole lot of Delirium enablers.
Yeah, so much. Lots of ramp. What is the Selesnya archetype? Survivor. Okay, so we saw a fair amount of that. Definitely saw the Golgari stuff.
Yeah, Gruul doesn't really have one. It's just beats.
Gruul beats. That is fine. And then what's Manifest Dread? We certainly saw plenty of Manifest Dread for Simic. So I'm really into green. I played a ton of green during the early access. I did Golgari in my sealed. I did 2 Selesnyas. And I think I did like a Jund. Or no, a Sultai or something like that. I don't remember. But I fell into green a ton because I felt like the cards were very strong. So in fairness, my drafts didn't go well. So maybe I'm wrong. But my sealed went good. So yeah, I think this is an incredibly exciting color. So I look forward to playing it. Let us know in the comments down below what you thought of the color. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps out a ton. And don't forget to check out our sponsors. They're linked down below because anytime you click those links, even if you're not purchasing anything, if you're just checking it out, they'll know I sent you and it'll help support the channel. So thank you guys so much. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.